Okay, right. Let's go. Okay, so the Ramban at the beginning of the parsha, Perek Tes Posuk base, picks up on something which I certainly never noticed, something I've ever noticed before, and I think it's a really, it's a fascinating point. The parsha deals with the Yom Hashmini, right? That's the name of the parsha. What is the eighth day? The eighth day is Yom Shmini Lamiluim, the eighth day of the inauguration procedure. The first 7 days are described in last week's parsha. It's interesting when it's a leap year, then actually it fits with HaChodesh, because HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodoshim is the first of Nisan, and Shmini Yom Hashmini was the first of Nisan. So actually, when Shmini is Parshas HaChodesh, the two are about the same date. Just interesting point. That makes sense. Okay, right. Yeah. So it's the same, these two things together, right? Yeah. Now, what is interesting is if you look carefully at the Pesukim, you'll see there's a difference in the Korbanos. Vayom El Ahara in Pasuk base, right? You need to take yourself a calf as a sin offering, and a ram as a burnt offering, Timimim, which is whole, no mum, no blemish, v'hakrev l'fnei Hashem, and offering l'fnei Hashem. Pasuk Gimel, the Bnei Yisrael tadaber limor, speak to the Bnei Yisrael and say to them, Kachu seirizim lechatos, take a goat, that's a male goat, for a sin offering, ve'egel v'cheves b'nei shana timim lo'ela, and a calf and a sheep, right, as a burnt offering. So what is the difference between these two sets of korbanos, and why are they being brought? So I don't want to start from the beginning of the Ramban. One second. I want to start from where it says V'hinei hakorbanos ha'elu. So on Pasuk Gimel, it's the fourth paragraph. V'hinei hakorbanos ha'elu. Can you see that? Yeah. Loi huzkaru b'parshas v'zeh adova shetas alem l'kadesh v'som l'chayinli. It says these korbanos are not actually listed in Parshas Tetzaveh. In Parshas Tetzaveh, the korbanos that will need to be brought for the inauguration are listed, but these ones are not. Ki shom lo tziva rak ala miluim. Because there, the command is only given for the miluim. That means the ones that are brought for the inauguration, the 7 days. The days of the inauguration, right, are completed during those first 7 days. Because now on the 8th day, they themselves shall bring the korbanos, right? That's the difference. The first 7 days, Moshe Rabbeinu is doing it. It's an inauguration ritual for them. You understand? But once it comes to the 8th day, this is when they are offering it themselves. It's like a dedication for them. There is this minchas chavitin. The chavitin is a type of mincha, I think, that is brought by the Kohanim on the day that they become inaugurated to start serving in the Mishkan. So the question is, therefore, since these korbanos are not listed in Parshas Tetzaveh, what are they for? What is the symbolism? They're not part of the inauguration. They're not part of although it's the 8th day, it's separate, not part of the inauguration ritual. It's got a new status. So what are they for? Right? The Ramban suggests that it was in order to atone for the golden calf that they were added on, these korbanos were added on. Because when Moshe Rabbeinu was told, this is what you need to do in order to sanctify them, the calf had not yet been performed. As I explained, that's why they weren't mentioned there. Now, we learned last week the Ramban Al HaTorah. The Ramban learns, as far as possible, we want to ensure that everything is in the same order. It's keseda. You understand? That there isn't a ein muktzah mocha b'Torah. There are the other Rishonim who learn like that. Rashi learns like that we say that there's no, that the order is someone's in a different order for various reasons. Ramban wants to try and keep everything as much as possible in order, which means that Tetzaveh is before Kisisa, which means there's no Egel yet, and therefore these korbanos don't feature in Tetzaveh because they have a new purpose, and they are introduced as an atonement for the Egel Hazav. V'lo k'divrei Rashi, he says, not like Rashi, it says that Kiapar lechaper al ma'aseh Egel. Rashi says there in Tetzaveh that the bull that needs to be brought during the 7 days is to atone for the Egel Hazav. It was to do with the purification of the Mizbeach and the sanctification of Aaron and his children. That's what it was for, that cow. And what was this one for? This calf was for that it was on the 8th day to atone for the Egel Hazov.
What does Rashi do?
Where? What do you mean?
He says they're not to.
No. Everyone. These korbanos do not appear in Tetzaveh, obviously, right? They don't. So Rashi would have to answer why not, because Rashi learns. Well, potentially Rashi could learn. I think does learn that the Tetzaveh after the Egel Hazov, but even so. You can ask why they're still a different category to the others, right? But the Ramban, it fits very well why these are not mentioned. The Korban Aaron, he says, Korban of Yom Kippurim b'Shaveh. The Korban of Aaron is the same, if you notice carefully, if you look at Parshas Acharemos, you'll see that it's the same as he brought on Yom Kippur. So these are very, very interesting details that the Ramban is picking up here, which I don't think we notice unless we have the Ramban to point it out for us, because, we just don't notice, right? It's exactly the same. In Parshas Acharemos, he has to bring the same korbanos. What does it say there? Acharemos shnei bnei Aaron. Okay, what does it say? Bezos yover Aaron el hakodesh, befar ben bokor lechatos. Okay, a par ben bokor for a chatos, v'ayel le'olah. And around it's the same. Korbanos are the same. Okay, parallel. The chatos ha'om kechatosom b'yom kippurim. And similarly, the people, which we said they have to bring a seir izim, a goat for chatos, is also the same as Yom Kippur. Kechatzosom, right, is B'Yom Kippurim, like the sin offering on Yom Kippur, where they bring a seir izim echad lechatos, a sin offering, a goat for a sin offering, right? Okay, that's the seir izim. Shnei seir izim lechatos, v'ayel echad le'olah. Shnei seir izim, because one is for the is as the one is Lashem, right? But the seir izim is brought as a sin offering, right? That's right. The one of the two goats, right? So he says like this. Tosefta it says on the Parshas in the Medrash Toras Kohanim, that the calf is to atone for the Ma'aser Egel, as we said. But Rabban says it brings this beautiful Medrash. Why was it that Bnei Yisrael brought more korbanos than Aaron? Why did they have to bring a goat? What was the goat for? And he says, V'darshu, they expounded as follows. He said to them, Yesh b'yedchem tchila, v'yesh b'yedchem basof. You have done something wrong at the beginning and at the end. Yesh b'yedchem b'tchila shenemar, v'yishchatu seir izim. You sinned at the beginning, well before the Egel Hazov. You shechted a goat, the cell of Yosef. And that's the goat. That's an amazing thing. That's the goat. Cell of Yosef. Yesh b'yedchem basof. You also sinned at the end. Time-wise. You made the calf. Therefore, the goat comes to atone for the goats. And the calf comes to atone for the calf. Veneri says it would seem because the reason of the sin offering of Aaron is the same reason as Yom Kippur. That's why he burnt it, this cow, the same way as the cow is burnt Yom Kippur. It's the Parim HaNisrofim, which we mentioned in what's it called, in Ezom HaKomen, the Parim HaNisrofim. One of the bulls that are burnt is the Yom Kippur one, right? Okay, I think that's what it refers. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Even though it was an external sin offering. Moshe didn't tell him to do so, but that's why he did so. And it could be he was commanded to do so, but the Torah doesn't tell us this at length. He only did what Moshe said. And Moshe only said what Hashem commanded, so it wasn't spelled out. But that was what he did. That's what he was required to do. So it's really an amazing thing. And it could be, and I know the Ramban, I wonder whether the Ramban says in Acharemos, I haven't checked, but it would be fascinating to know also if it's the same parallel. It seems to go in that direction in Yom Kippur. That basically, there's multiple things you learn from this Ramban. Number one, you learn that the Yom HaShemini is in a different category altogether. That although it's the 8th day of the inauguration ritual, but it's got a separate function. It's not inauguration now. It's them themselves offering to achieve that kapara that they need themselves in order to begin to serve in the Mishkan, right? Number two, you learn that there is a direct parallel between these korbanos and of the Yom HaShemini and the ones that are brought once a year on Yom Kippur, both in terms of Aaron and also in terms of the Bnei Yisrael. And the third thing you learn is that everyone needs a kapara for the Egel Hazov, Aaron for his involvement and also for the Bnei Yisrael. But the Bnei Yisrael have an extra atonement that they need for V'yishchatu seir izim, and that's the goat. that is shechted, the significance of the goat. Martin asked me before, why wasn't Shevet Levi also involved in Mechiras Yosef, which I think is an excellent question. So why didn't Aaron need it? Because of Shevet Levi. It presumably must be because he himself, as Aaron, is got. It's more about, if you look at Yom Kippur, it's also like that, right? You know, it's very much focused on the Kohanim as the base Aaron, right, rather than their role as Levian. If that makes sense. You know, there's a real separation there, certainly in the avodah of Yom Kippurim. You know what I mean? That you've got that concept. So, but anyways, it's just a beautiful Ramban telling us many things that we didn't know before. So if you look now at Parak Tes Pasuk Zion, you have these amazing, unbelievable words, and the Rashi's here are so powerful. You have to learn them. Again, we skip over. You understand what's going on here. This moment when Aaron is afraid, right? You have to step up now, atone, you know, draw near to the Mizbeach, and Rashi picks up on this and says, Aaron was embarrassed, he was ashamed, he was terrified to come. Who am I? Well, how can I come near? And the Ramban elaborates on this. Why is he so worried? He's worried because of his role in the Egel Azov. And he's worried about what, you know, can I really do this? And even though he's been preparing for it for 7 days and he's known about it for a long time and everything else, but come the moment, and he's very scared. Look at Ramban, sorry. He says, Al daiti b'derech hapshat, but his posuk Zayin Ches. The simple explanation is it means come near to the northern side of the Mizbeach and perform the sin offering and the burnt offering, right? Because they are shechted in the north. He says it without specifying the north, because Aaron knew this already. So Karav and Mizbeach, a simple explanation is he's telling him, go to the right side, go to the correct place to do the shechita, right? Rabbi Toras Kohanim, the Chazal in the Medrash and Toras Kohanim, they raised this question, and they gave a moshel as follows: the Melech Isha, a king who marries a woman, and it comes to it, she's ashamed to marry the king. How can I marry the king? Her sister comes in and says to her, Omala, Achosi, Loma Nechnasta Ledova Zeh, right? Loma Nechnasta Ledova Zeh, Lo Shetasham Shisa Melech. This is why you entered it, to serve the king. This is what you got involved in. You married the king. You have to fulfill what you are supposed to fulfill. And this kind of terror that you feel, you have to overcome it. This is your role. Kach, that's the moshel. Kach Amal Moshe Aaron. So Moshe said to Aaron, Aaron Achi, Aaron my brother, Loma Nivcharta Elios Kohen Gadol. Right? Why were you chosen? Why did Hashem choose you as a Kohen Gadol? Lo Shetishores Lifnei HaMokem, to serve before Hashem. Hagei Staitcha Uvoiva Avoid Avodosecha. That's an amazing phrase. You know what Hagei Staitcha means? So you heard the very Gasus Haruach is like pride. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, Hagei Staitcha, like raise yourself, raise your belief in yourself. It's almost like he's not saying be haughty, but be, because obviously it doesn't mean haughty. Have confidence. That's what it means. Gus can mean like Gus means really something thick. You know, it implies expansion. That's really what, you know, that's really what the word what Gasus means. So Gus, as a Gasus or Ruach means expansion of spirit. You know, someone can become too proud or haughty. But here he's saying your opinion of yourself is too low. That's what he's saying. Hagei Statcha, you know, raise yourself up, right? Believe in yourself. And serve as you're meant to serve. Yes, some say, Aaron the Aaron saw the Mizbeach, Ketav Nishar. He actually looked at the Mizbeach and he saw an ox. He saw the image of a cow, of an ox. Nechnas Moshe went into him. Omar said to Aaron, don't be afraid from that which you are fearful of. You know, raise yourself up, come close to it. He drew near to the Mizbeach Bizrizas with alacrity, right? With alacrity, right? This is what he did. The Tam was there, and the reason for this matter was because Aaron was Kadosh Hashem, and the only sin that he had attributed to him was the sin of Egel Azov. Therefore, that's why it was fixed in his mind all the time. He couldn't leave it because he knew that was the big thing that he just couldn't overcome in his mind, right? The passing in Tehillim, my sin is always before me. And it appeared to him as if the image of the Egel Azov was itself holding back his atonements. That's why Hashem said, Moshe Rabbeinu said, you need to raise yourself up. You shouldn't be so lowly in your eyes. Hashem wants your actions. Others explain the Sultan showed this to him. They said that even though Moshe Rabbeinu says, even though Hashem wants to atone for your sin, you need to put something into the mouth of the Sultan. Maybe he will oppose you. As all the Medrash talk about that, the Sultan will oppose you as you come into the Mikdash. However, we have to understand that how the Sultan will oppose him. We have to remember the Sultan is the Yitzhara, is the Malach HaMovis. It's all, it's all the same. So either. I think the two things aren't necessarily a machlokas between these two opinions in the Medrash, as is often the case in the Medrash. Doesn't have to say they're not mutually exclusive. These are two different approaches as to what holds Aaron back, right? What is holding Aaron? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu say Krav al-Mizbeach, right? Either it's his opinion of himself, that he just can't believe that he is really able to do this, and that sense of self-belief is hugely important. If a person has a job to do, a role to do, you have to believe in yourself. It's very difficult. One has to believe in oneself, otherwise one doesn't get any, right? And the second thing that holds Aaron Cohen back is what? Is the Satan, right? So the external forces, call it the Satan, the Satan is the Sahara, whatever, and I think this is just an amazingly powerful idea, because this is what we have in life, right? We have two things that hold us back generally from achieving potential in life, right? We have our internal self and we have external factors, right? And we tend to vacillate between the two. You know what I mean? Half the time we blame ourselves and we're like, well, I can't really do this. It's not for me. Someone bigger than me should be doing this, right? That's hard. And the rest of the time, it's either others telling us or external factors, it's circumstance, right? I can't do this because of circumstance. My life doesn't allow me to do this, because of circumstance, right? You have to read. We don't want to stray away from the Ramban too much, but Viktor Frankl, right? Man's Search for Meaning. This is his entire thing, right? We can't choose in life the situation we're in, but we do get to choose how to respond. That's what we have free choice. That is the realm of our free choice. We don't have the choice as to where we are put, right? That's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem puts us in whatever situation He puts us in, and our choice is as wide as we make our response, essentially. And I think it's just beautifully brought out from this Ramban. This image of Aaron, who's really the pinnacle. He's really there. He's right at the top. He's with Moshe Rabbeinu, right? But he's plagued by the self-doubt. What a lesson that is for us. Where we, if the greatest of the great have those challenges, that's a big message for us. Anyway. Yeah, of course, absolutely. That's right. 100%. And that's where, but it goes so often together, because that's the way, that's how they become such great leaders, because the humility, the anova is genuine. You understand? Like that sense of the lack of self. Do you understand? Like I remember over the time I've had the privilege of encountering Gedolei Yisrael from, when we're living in Israel, and meeting incredibly great people like Chaim and Rabbi Steinman, and I did meet Rav Elyashiv, but I didn't have an interaction with him. I went to a bris and he was there. It sounds like, the one thing I often said to people, especially my Rosh Hashiva of Gershon Edelstein, they all have in common is the zero sense of self. It's an amazing thing. That's the one. Of course, they're all incredible Talmidei Chachomim, and absolutely, but there's zero self. There's no sense of self. Yeah, you just saw that. You remember going to a bris, and Rabbi Steinman was the Sunday, and he's standing by the side like anyone else, just waiting for the bris. There's no sense of yeah, exactly. There's no sense of their own self-importance. They just had to do the role they had to do.
Aaron had to behave like a kind of.
Correct. Exactly. And he had to somehow detach. Maybe that's part of the message of this whole thing. He was detached from, the contrary, he had to be raised up. So, yeah. Okay, so let's go on to Perek Yud Pasuk Gimel. When we have the tragedy of the death of Aaron Cohen's sons. So just to bring out a few a few ideas. The Ramban says the Pasuk Gimel, very good Pasuk Gimel. The question basically he wants to look at is, what does it mean when it says Hu asher diber Hashem lemor b'krovai kodesh? So Rashi learns that what does it mean when Moshe Rabbeinu says, this is what Hashem said, I will be sanctified amongst my holy ones. What does that mean? So according to Rashi, this means, you could just sort of summarize Rashi because he brings Rashi, Ramban brings Rashi inside. It means that I knew that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving him the facts, the background story. In other words, he's saying to him, I knew that the Beis HaMikdash or the Mishkan would be sanctified with those who are closest to Hashem. I thought it'd be one of us. But it turns out that it's your children, and they're greater than either of us. So there's a nechama in that as well. That's the idea, right? There's a sense of comfort in that sense. That's the idea, right? Okay, and that's he brings from the Medrash. And therefore, according to that, says the Ramban, the idea of a nikdash b'choidi, we be sanctified from those who honor me. This is the pasuk in Shemos, that I will be sanctified in the eyes of the people and in those who I think honor well or honor me or closest to me, right? And that's how they'll know that I'm amongst you. So that's the Rashi. Then he brings the Ibn Ezra, who also says similar. The second paragraph, that he will demonstrate, or his kedusha will be demonstrated through those closest to him, right? That's how it will become known, right? That's what it means. It will become known through this. So therefore, and that's how he will become honored amongst all of the people as a result. And if so, says the Ramban, this is a speech, this is a statement that is not written down, not mentioned, not written down. Hashem it makes known his ways, that this is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts within in this manner. The Ramban has a different explanation to Rashi and Ibn Ezra. Well, the deity says that this is the third paragraph. According to my opinion, according to the similar explanation, there is no need for all of this. Ki dvar Hashem, because the word of Hashem, and he's focusing here very much on that word diber Hashem. What does it mean, diber Hashem? What does it mean Hashem spoke? What does that mean? Where does Hashem speak? Gezerosov machshavosov, the word of Hashem, his decrees, his thoughts, so to speak, ve'inyan derochov, and the way, like the Ramchal Sefer, derech Hashem, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu acts with creation, with people, v'hadibur, and the speech, yoma b'chol eila, it says about all of these, dibarti ani im libi. That's a passage in Koheles, right? I spoke with my heart. Chashavti machshavazu. The word divar or dibur can mean a process of thought in that sense. V'zeh dova Hashem mol Yehoshua. Right? It says things are the same. This is the Zeh Inyan. This is the matter. It's what the Mila that Yeshua did. Al Dvar HaKesef, on the matter of the silver, the money. This was returned in their sacks when they went back to Egypt, right? They were going back to Canaan. V'chein vatiyeh shala ben adoinecho, kasher diber Hashem. Shall be a wife for the son of your master. This is with Eliezer, and the wife for Yitzchak, as Hashem has spoken. What does it mean there? Kasher diber Hashem. It means Gozar. Hashem has decreed, right? And he brings other examples as well. Come about Avira, Melachim Aleph, Bechor Yosna, Besiga V'tzira, Heiz V'seged Hashem, Hashem diber b'yad Yeshua. And again, it's that. So in other words, the point he's trying to make is that the word divar or diber Hashem is used in the context we find of a decree, of a gezerah, right, of Hashem, a matter that needs to take that is carried out. So Moshe was saying as follows: Hamikra zeh, this terrible incident, of the death of Nadav and Avihu, hu asher gozar Hashem leimor eliboy. This is what Hashem has decreed, so to speak, to himself with his heart. Bikrovai ekodesh, but through my ones who are closest to me, I will be sanctified. Shelo yeharsu el kedushasi. So they should not break through and breach the boundary of my holiness, right? Well, so that and I will be sanctified through the people. They will always conduct themselves with great respect and covered to my sanctuary. So according to the Ramban, understand, according to how the Ibn Ezra and the Ramban, Hu Asher Diber Hashem is a reference of Moshe Rabbeinu to the past, that Hashem has already decreed this. Hashem has spoken this would happen, and now we see it's come to pass. That's really how Rashi and the Ramban and Ibn Ezra understand it, right? Says the Ramban, you can understand the word diver to mean that Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to explain this is a gezerah. Yeah, this is a gezerah. It's a gezerah now. Washer diber Hashem. This is a gezerah of Hashem to say the Krivaya Kodesh that I will be sanctified. There will be kedusha created through those who are closest to me. In other words, your sons. And how is that kedusha created? Because no one is going to do the wrong thing again. That no one is going to bring an Eish Zorah again, foreign fire again. Yeah, he's saying this is a gezerah which Hashem has decreed in order to ensure that the Mishkan remains sacred. And then it says, "V'tam vayidom Aaron." Why Aaron was silent? What happened? So Aaron was silent. So the Ramban interestingly learns, he was weeping loudly, but then he was silent. Okay, he brings another pshat. I'm not sure what the second pshat is, but the first one that he brings, va'oz shosak, meaning that he accepted it. Right? It wasn't that he wasn't right. It was Moshe Rabbeinu's words brought him a measure of comfort in some way, an ability to become silent because of the acceptance of this decree, of this gezerah, and the fact that Hashem had decreed that it should take place. That's the Vayidom Aaron. That's the Vayidom Aaron. Okay, we just have time for a tiny bit more on the beginning of the parsha of the second half of the parsha, which is on kashrus. And the Ramban points out to us what is going on when it says Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe vel Aaron lemor aleim. So the question is really Perek Aleph, Pasuk Aleph. So this is obviously going to talk about what you can eat and you can't eat. So the question is, why is it that it's specifically said to Moshe and Aaron? Why is the influence there? Surely this parasha is really directed to the whole of Bnei Yisrael. Okay, and it's very interesting. The whole placement of this, there's so much more to say about this, unfortunately we don't have time. The placement of the halach of kashrus here is a really, really, really central thing. You have to understand it to understand Vayikra. The many Meforshim talk about this. To understand Sefer Vayikra, you need to understand this perek, right? Because, and it's brought out in different ways, but until this point we were dealing with korbanos and the Mishkan and the holiness and what about everyone else? How do the rest of us, if we don't need to bring a korban or there's no Beis Hamikdash, how do we get close? How do we get close to that kedusha? And that's where you have the sense of this parasha. That's where it comes in. In fact, I think the Al-Shich says that there is a. He says if you look carefully, you'll see that it's sandwiched between halachos which are primarily directed to Kohanim. So all beforehand is all about the Kohanim, and Tazria as well. Tazria Matzah is really instructions to the Kohanim. The problem exists with the ordinary Jew in the pew, right? But the Kohanim are the one who have the responsibility to deal with it, right? And here you have in the middle, sandwiched between them, a parasha which is directed to understanding that we also achieve kedusha by what we do and what we eat and the way we behave. Very interesting, the balance there between them. Anyway, the Ramban says, "Ha-mitzvahs b'parasha so'ela." The mitzvahs in these parashas nogos b'Yisrael b'Kohanim. They apply to Yisraelim and the Kohanim. Aval inyonam meruba b'Kohanim. But there are more responsibility, says on the Kohanim. Ki heim tzrichim nishtamed neged tomed minigias hatumah. They have to be very careful not to become tomei. Because they have to enter the Beis Hamikdash and they have to enter a kodshim. And furthermore, if the Bnei Yisrael do the wrong thing, they commit a crime b'shogeg. What happens? The Kohanim have to bring the korban, right? And furthermore, they are commanded specifically to make these distinctions between holiness and things that are not holy, and they have that responsibility that the Torah has spelled out before in just towards the end of the previous parak with the instruction not to drink wine and come to the Beis Hamikdash. So therefore they have a greater responsibility, and that's why it says to Aaron. There's another responsibility they have, and that is to teach the Bnei Yisrael what to do, what is pure and what is impure. Therefore, Moshe and Aaron shneim. That's why it was to Moshe and Aaron together. Ola Moshe Shem and Aaron, or to Moshe to tell Aaron that Tzivur shneim double Bnei Yisrael. And he commanded both of them speak to the Bnei Yisrael. Yazeh beparsha ba'achila or betumah sheleitama mishkan v'kodoshav. According to Ramban, this is why it's in the Sefer Toras Kohanim, which we call Vayikra, Sefer Toras Kohanim, because ultimately they are the ones who have to ensure this is carried out, right? To teach the Bnei Yisrael how to behave, what they can eat, what they can't eat, and how to prevent the Mishkan becoming Tomei. So therefore, according to Ramban, the explanation that he has is in order to make sure that that they are elevated and that although this does of course apply to the Bnei Israel, the reality is that the responsibility rests with the Kohanim to make sure that we are on that position, on that level. That's the message according to Ramban. Yes, sure, there's more to say, but I think we're pretty much out. So thank you for coming. Have a very good Shabbos.
Thank you.